Learned from the lesson. Live in the hills, but I still get a spread. Started with a little, but I still reinvest it. Fear how I feel, then you feel like a blessing. I just want the lesson, I just want protection. I'm up and I'm down, but they sound like progression. Farmer never plans if he waits for perfection. Finger to the down, hold it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I got your watch list coming in at April 30th, 2021, and the stock market has just had some of the best earnings in years. And I got 3 stocks that I'm looking at coming in at tomorrow, but you got the Amazon earnings today following Apple, Microsoft, everything else. We've seen some of the biggest and best earnings ever, but you are barely up on the week. Here is the 5-day chart. This is from that whole capital gains fiasco. Here was Jerome Powell making it look smaller, and then you saw the move today. There was a bunch of whipsawing. We came all the way down below the Powell level, and then we bounced right back up, closing us at 420 for all-time highs on the S&P, but there was a lot of things that happened today. You had the follow-up with Biden and Powell. You also had economic data, which wasn't too hot, but the question is, why are we getting such good earnings, but you're not really seeing the movements? A lot of people asked that today, and in answering that question, well, that is going to give us the guidance here for the next coming months. So we got a lot to talk about. I want to go over what happened in the market today, what we're looking at tomorrow, the plays that we made today. I actually made a big kind of YOLO play, and then the plays that we're looking at for tomorrow. So let us not delay. You guys know what you need to do. Drop your thumbs up on the video. Make sure you're subscribed. And if you don't know, we are live Monday through Friday, 30 minutes for open. It's the first link in the description, and it is pinned in the comments. We better see you there in the morning. It's free 99. It costs you nothing to join. YouTube.com/The Stock Market. You can post the plays, see the plays, watch the watch list come to life. And yes, today was a sad day without the members. So there's no jokes. I mean, there's nothing to smile about. We love you all. We just want to respectful and positive, and that's why we're the place to be. And the most important thing you need to do, post your watch below. Let us know what you're looking at. Got any plays, comments, remixes, anything? Post them below and source that info. Shout out to Chad, baby. So right off the bat, like I said, today was a giant whipsaw, and it was balancing between that economic data and what we saw last night. So you got the final report on the GDP, and that wasn't too good, as well as the jobless claims. It was slightly better, but it did not show the same sort of increase that we've been seeing. So now that is new economic data. Tie that into everything with the Fed and even all of the moves we've seen. You know, why are you seeing such good earnings, and why is the market not going up with it? This has to do with pricing things in, and if you haven't realized it yet, imagine the scope of the move that we've seen in the last few months. Why did we go up so high leading into this big week with earnings? This was because the market was getting situated and started to expect, okay, look at the economic data, look at the stuff we've been getting. It seems like it's going to be hot. People were pricing it in. Everybody expected the data to do good, and that's even where the baseline effects come into play. But that now means any other economic data is going to guide us here into the next few months. So that is what we need to be watching for. And one of the analogies I gave a lot today, it's just like LeBron James. You're saying, how do these companies do good and then they still don't go up? It is like LeBron James going to the finals. People expect him to be the best player and do good. Even if he made it to the final round but didn't make the championship, they would say, oh, he's overrated. We know he's good, but we expected him to be the best, essentially. So now factor that into everything with the market. You've seen the market go up over the last few months. A lot of people have seen the data. They were expecting things to be good. So even if these companies reported good, that was kind of already implied, but they wanted to see really good. So any bad spot, these companies were priced to perfection. So that's why some of them went down. But you'll notice they didn't drop a lot, and they got that support with the buybacks and all of that. Now, tying this into today and everything we saw, you also were getting that follow-up from Biden and Powell. Those were two important things. Biden didn't scare the market yesterday, which was good. He did not elaborate on that tax plan. He essentially said the same things we already knew. The market got spooked a little bit, came back. He announced a lot of stuff, but nothing too scary. And even for what to focus on, this is what I boiled it down to, both with the market and what we saw from Powell and Biden. The key focus is moving forward. It's going to be bonds and real estate. That's what I'm getting from Powell. Then as far as some of the policy from Biden, it looks like biotechs and health, energy, solar, all of that, the EV, those are going to be the two main industries that I'm thinking are going to be the key takeaways coming into the rest of the year here. But nonetheless, a lot of the earnings came in today. You saw how the market moved. It was a giant whipsaw. There was that pressure at the open despite us gapping up and the market kind of taking things good. But then throughout the middle of the day, you also got this labor secretary news regarding gig workers, and this kind of just dropped everything. I think we would have had more stability and bounced up a lot earlier, but then that's where some of that negative news came in. The labor secretary said it would be more appropriate to classify all gig workers as employees. So this had a big effect. It affected Uber Uber and everybody else, but everything from Uber to travel, really. And you have to really think why. Imagine Uber and Prop 22. This is what makes it so interesting because people have already voted on this. So the people in Uber and Lyft and the gig workers themselves in some of these states that had these issues, they've already had the opportunity to decide what they want. But this had such a big economic and stock effect because if they did something on a federal level, well, it doesn't really matter what people voted for there. So this had some effect. There were some of those earnings, but all in all, I'm expecting to see a little bit of whipsaw and back and forth because now this is going to bring the final point here. You got most of the big earnings out of the way. The market's going to react to things. It's going to do its thing, but there's a reason why it keeps ending up. And this is watching for the signals and pricing in for next quarter. It's pretty much looking for guidance from the rest of the companies, the Fed, and now the government in policy. So as data starts to come out, we've gotten a majority of the big earnings. We'll get some of the smaller ones, but wait for the market now to start getting an idea of how this next quarter is going to go. And then before you know it, the market will get into that pricing mode. But now in this case, we're not only watching the companies, but also the Fed and Jerome Powell. We kind of got that yesterday. And now we're pretty much waiting for the final aspects of the government and policy. And that will kick off the next wave, or we will see what happens. Again, yesterday I said it would be bullish. I'm still standing by that. However, I wouldn't be surprised to see a little bit of back and forth. And it doesn't mean the market goes straight up or melt up. There might be a little bit of hiccups along the way as the market whipsaws back and forth just on a more broader scale, not just today, until it gets the data and consensus that it's really looking for. So you still got earnings. We still have a lot to look for next week, but you are going to get a lot more policy and broader things to look at very, very shortly here as we get ready for the new quarter. So I hope you're ready, but that is pretty much it. So let us get into the plays. So, right off the bat, I got 3 different stacks that I'm looking at tomorrow. They're all going to be continuation plays, but I did go a little bit hard on this first one, and that is Overstock. You've definitely heard me talk about this, but they had earnings today, and it was absolutely killer. So, not even factoring in the crypto, their expectation was like 4 cents on EPS, and they reported, I believe, 54 cents. So, great on the bottom line. They even beat, I think, 20-30% on revenue, so I really, really like it, but I'll show you why I went with this play. I did it for a couple reasons. One, I like this stock. We already have exposure, but that's why now I kind of did a YOLO play because I went for a shorter term option on next week and I went to get leverage because I already have a lot of exposure. So if you guys don't remember, we already have the leap. I have 100 shares at 72. Then we got another like 30, 40 shares at $65. And then now I added a short term play because most of them were either out for a year or two, or we already had a good gain on the equity. But another main reason why I got it was because of the option and how it traded this morning. So this is going after the continuations. You saw how I did it with AMD and it might fail, but I was able to get a really good deal on an option that seemed further out the money, but in the morning it pretty much was $1 away. So I decided to get 10 of these 89 contracts. I believe I spent about 70 cents, but you could see at one point throughout the morning, they traded at 190. Somebody bought them at 290, came even down to $1. And then at the point I got them, they were at 70 cents. I said, hey, it seems like a pretty good deal. Although it seems like that's about what, 15-20% away. It was trading at that in the morning. The stock was up 22% at open. So we know Overstock could move, but the best part is now it's not like I'm taking this play again. We had the shares and everything else. That was more of a gamble because we didn't know the earnings. So now you've seen this stock move. You've seen it trade up at $80, almost $90 today. And that was just digesting all of this good news. So I really like it. That's why I decided to go after that play. Has a little bit of time. So even if it sells off tomorrow, we could still get clapped. But if it does start to bounce back up and continue and get priced in, I think this is going to be a real killer one. But either way, if I'm wrong on the short term, I'm still going to be holding the rest of those other plays. And I really, really like Overstock. So that is going to be the first play. As far as the second play, I want to watch Amazon. They hit their earnings out of the park. And that's why I'm saying another instance here where they killed it. It looks like they did a lot, but at the end of the day, they barely moved above their expectations. So I'm expecting both sides of the coin, calls and puts, to get clapped. And I even sold my call before earnings. And no, a lot of people were talking about the rumor. We discussed it. We explained it all, but I even said, hey, that's a big risk. Again, they could do their earnings, but you've seen how all the other earnings played out. The only reason I would have held this and held it, even this far out the money, it had a good value. I got $900. Remember, we bought these for $500. So I said, hey, if I'm wrong, I'll miss out on, a really surprise piece of news. I'm okay with that, but I'd rather preserve the capital here. And I got the $900 back. Overall, got the win. We'll see how those contracts value in the morning. But overall, I still think this sort of move, again, about 120. I think they're pricing in 130. It's right now at expectations, but you got a good report. If the market plays along and you see momentum, it'll be a good continuation. Otherwise, it may trade like Netflix and Apple have over the last couple days. So watch them. I think that's going to be a good Friday one. And then finally, Twitter. They had their earnings after hours and they dropped a lot. And I'm going to really look for the downside social media loser and continuation. Think about Pinterest, but a little bit worse because now I believe this is their second quarter of kind of declining user growth. Their Q1 was already pretty bad and that had a decline, but now they suffered even more declines. The stock finally sold off. Even out of the rest of the social media companies, they probably had the worst earnings. You've already got Facebook, Snapchat, Pinterest, all of those. So for the most part, anybody comparable. Some companies had their hiccups. You saw Pinterest, Snapchat was able to do pretty good, but now after the earnings today, it looks like Twitter has some cracks. So I'm going to be watching them. We'll see how that plays on a Friday. It may even just be a day trade if anything. So keep your eyes on them. As far as everything else, going to be watching Apple as well. They had a killer earnings and I was very, very surprised to see them even close red, but there was that pressure in the market today. But it even reminds me of Microsoft because Microsoft sold off the first 2 days, but even this morning, right before everything started to drop, they looked like they were going to break out of that, but they ended up selling off. So that was pretty surprising to me, but it's going to make me want to watch Apple a little bit more. So watch them. Watch Disney. I really, really like this now. They haven't reported yet. This is one of the bigger name companies that is yet to report. They're going to be next week, but surprisingly, they were kind of in the gutter. The premiums were down in the morning and they came back after this. CNBC was playing their stock draft game and they just talked about Disney, but then it just started a lot of momentum. So you may even argue that's what caused the bounce here. I don't know. But watch them. I really like them. I'm still holding that play. I think that one's going to be a good one. Again, Twitter, you can see they dropped 11, 12%. That's a pretty big move there. It did spill over into Snapchat a little bit and some of the other ones. So watch them. Watch Uber again. This was the news. You could kind of see it reflected in the SPY, but it affected all of these industries, anything with gig workers and also unions and labor. That was a big talk with Biden yesterday. So you saw them. I'm going to be watching them and Lyft. I think those are going to be key to watch. Even DoorDash as well. They fall into it. So a lot of these companies are pretty volatile and they took big moves. Again, 7, 8%. This is nothing to ignore. So watch them. Watch Altria. Again, pull it up on the daily. They got more negative news with the menthol ban, but you can see it's kind of holding this level, which is good. But you can see how this price level is telling you something because they also reported earnings today. And think about it. They had some time to address this. They still see their full year guidance the exact same and things are still looking good. So watch out for that. We still have that put, but I believe it's still only down to like 30% now. So this was a big move from the top when we caught it, but now it's almost been 2 weeks. It hasn't moved there, holding the same price. You're watching the market get adjusted, but keep your eyes on any of those cigarette stocks and see, because if it does develop from here, that would be a worry, but it seems like the companies are not that scared of it. So watch them, then watch Coinbase. They dropped it. And as you can see here, look at the IPO days. You literally have 2 days that have been green. Again, this is still a awful performance, but there's a lot of big things happening with Ethereum and even Bitcoin kind of bounced a little bit. So I like Ethereum. I want to see how this plays into it if crypto kind of bounces back. Otherwise, this has been a long time to be in the gutter here. It's not trading like Airbnb anymore. It's kind of doing its own thing here. So we're going to see, but I'm still holding all of those shares. I've not bought any more, but we'll watch how that plays out. Then watch Baba. They came down today, and one of the things today is that a lot of the Chinese stocks were down earlier and faster than everyone else, and they still managed to end up red. So we'll see. I don't know if it'll be policy related. If anything, I will be keeping my eyes on the currency and the dollar and all that because I think that has a bigger effect, but watch them and see how that develops, especially as some of those companies report, but most of them already did, or at least Baba. So watch them. And then finally, TLT and the dollar. TLT did not really do much today. It was actually really weird because in the morning it was looking bad, but then it really bounced midway when the market was still kind of going down. So it kind of leveled off here, but it has been picking up over the last couple days. You can't get it twisted here. I want to say it's not doing much, but it is, but it's just not getting reflected. You've been having a lot of movements to only close 0.25%, but in 3 days that could add up. So watch that. You're at that key resistance level. That's why I think next week and everything else will be key, but the dollar still kind of continued its downtrend. I will be watching that for any aggressive signal. Again, you kind of saw it there in the morning, but overall, guidance is going to come through companies, the Fed, and the government. So keep your eye on that and keep your eyes peeled and get ready to start pricing in next quarter, baby. But that is your watch list, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure hydrate, healthy, ready to go. Make sure you post your watch list. Make sure we see you there in the morning. I need the armor on. I need the helmet shining. I need you to not forget, baby, you become what you think about. But the code loves you. I love you. I'm going to see you in the morning. Let's go.